Days of Our Lives spoilers. Why Kristen is the only adult in Rachel's life with any sense, as she got Rachel out of Bayview immediately. Now she needs to know about Sophia. Salem's most notorious villain has taken on a new role, protective mother bear, and surprisingly, she might be the only adult in Rachel Black's life who is currently making any sense. In a week of shocking developments that have left Salem reeling, Kristen Stacey Hyduck, has done the unthinkable. Fresh from her harrowing ordeal trapped in the DiMera crypt, Kristen's priorities have crystallized with laser focus. Get her daughter out of Bayview, and get her out now. While the rest of Salem wrings its hands over protocol and best practices, Kristen has already executed a rescue mission, proving that when it comes to understanding her daughter's trauma, she is several steps ahead of the so-called experts. The Bayview Breakdown. For weeks, viewers have watched Rachel Black, Alice Halsey, languish in the sterile, oppressive environment of Bayview. The child was admitted after a series of disturbing incidents stemming from the immense trauma of shooting her uncle, E.J. DiMera, Dan Foyereagle, an act she was manipulated into by her unstable grandfather, Peter. While her father, Brady Black, Eric Martsolf, and brother, Tate, Leo Howard, have visited with heavy hearts and furrowed brows, their visits have done little to lift Rachel's spirits. But Kristen, upon being freed from the crypt and learning of her daughter's confinement, didn't waste a moment on hand-wringing. She stormed the facility with a singular purpose. While the medical staff at Bayview saw a troubled patient who needed to be medicated and isolated, Kristen saw a little girl drowning in guilt and fear, surrounded by strangers. A mother's instinct versus medical protocol. The stark contrast in parenting styles is impossible to ignore. Brady, ever the well-meaning but often befuddled father, has relied on the professionals. He has trusted that Bayview, with its sterile walls and clinical routines, is the place where Rachel can heal. But as Kristen correctly identified, the facility was doing more harm than good. Kristen's decision to remove Rachel immediately wasn't just an impulsive act of defiance. It was a calculated move by the only person in Rachel's life who truly understands the dark, twisted corridors of the DiMera psyche. Kristen knows that locking a child away and treating her like a diagnosis will not erase the memory of pulling a trigger. It will only compound the trauma with feelings of abandonment and confusion. Furthermore, the situation at Bayview was far from therapeutic. Unbeknownst to Brady and the hospital staff, Rachel was not sitting alone in her room contemplating her actions. She had found an unlikely and dangerously chaotic playmate in none other than Sophia Choi, Rachel Boyd. The unholy alliance at Bayview. Reports from inside the facility suggest that Rachel and Sophia formed a mischievous alliance that turned the psychiatric wing upside down. While Sophia was ostensibly admitted for her own mental health crisis, a psychotic break following the reveal of her elaborate baby lies, she was far from catatonic when the nurses weren't looking. Spoilers indicate that Sophia, still reeking of manipulation despite her circumstances, managed to be a terrible influence on the impressionable Rachel. The two were sneaking in late-night burgers, playing pranks on the orderlies, and generally running amok. For Rachel, it was the most fun she'd had in ages, a fact she hid behind a sad sack act whenever her father and brother came to visit. She played the role of the broken child perfectly, all while secretly enjoying a juvenile delinquent summer camp with Sophia. This is the environment Kristen snatched her daughter from. While Brady was being soothed by Rachel's performative sadness, Kristen saw through the act and recognized that her daughter was not getting help. She was getting a partner in crime. The last thing a child who shot someone needs is a mentorship in sociopathy from a girl who faked a pregnancy and framed her best friend. Now Kristen needs to know about Sophia. This brings us to the most critical part of Kristen's new crusade. She now needs to know everything about Sophia Choi. The Kristen DiMera who emerged from that crypt is not the same woman who went in. The ordeal with her brother Peter, being forced to literally knock him out with a bone to save the rest of her family, has triggered a profound shift in her worldview. She saw in Peter a reflection of what her daughter could become if left unchecked. a chimera consumed by feeling invisible and rejected, lashing out with lethal consequences. Learning that Sophia Choi, a girl whose rap sheet includes fraud, psychological torture, and arson, had been whispering in Rachel's ear at Bayview will send Kristen into overdrive. Make no mistake, the Kristen chimera protection instinct is a fearsome thing to behold. She once went to prison for a crime she didn't commit just to shield Rachel from the truth about the EJ shooting. She has stolen embryos, worn masks, and terrorized entire towns, all in the name of love for Brady and, by extension, her child. Sophia Choi doesn't stand a chance. The real adult in the room. It is a delicious irony that Kristen chimera, a woman whose history includes faking pregnancies, locking people in secret rooms, and general mayhem, is being positioned as the moral compass for her daughter. Yet, in the context of Rachel's life, she is exactly that. Brady loves Rachel, but he is often too passive. Marlena Evans is a world-class psychiatrist, but she is also Rachel's step-grandmother, and her professional detachment can sometimes read as cold. The rest of Salem is too busy with their own crises, Xander's violent streak, Johnny and Chanel's adoption drama, and the fallout from the crypt, to focus on one little girl's mental state. Kristen, however, has no such distractions. Her world has narrowed to a single point: Rachel. She understands the weight of the chimera name because she has carried it her whole life. She knows what it's like to be raised in an environment of manipulation and high-stakes drama. When Rachel feels guilty about shooting EJ, Kristen doesn't just offer a platitude, she offers solidarity, having spent years trying to destroy the man herself. When Rachel acts out, Kristen doesn't see a patient, she sees a reflection of her own pain and isolation as a child. A new chapter for the chimera women. As Kristen integrates Rachel back into the world, likely the chimera mansion, where she can control the environment, the next phase of this story will undoubtedly center on the threat posed by Sophia. Rachel's brief friendship with the troubled teen has planted seeds that Kristen will need to uproot before they bloom. The coming weeks in Salem promise a fascinating dynamic. We may see a softer, more introspective Kristen, one grappling with the fear that her daughter is destined for the same darkness as the rest of the family. But we will also see the return of the fierce, unhinged protector. If Sophia Choi thinks she can manipulate Rachel Black, she is about to learn a very painful lesson from Salem's reigning queen of chaos. In a town full of doctors, lawyers, and well-meaning parents, it took the villain to finally do the right thing. Kristen didn't save Rachel from Bayview with a court order or a medical degree. She saved her with a mother's instinct, and that makes her the only adult in this situation with any sense at all.